Hello, 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 good people. This is your guy, your communicator, educator, and free thinker, bringing you another edition of your weekly media report on the Media Mic, broadcasting live from the Lone Star State. Today's top story is from the opinion out of the New York Post, an article by Ramona Toss titled Biden's Trans Order Undoes Decades of Feminist Progress. Let me repeat that. Biden's trans order undoes decades of feminist progress. As I told you before, there would be pushback. And here it is. So, let's get to it. The Biden presidency, we're told, is a historic win for women, with Kamala Harris as his Madam Vice President and a record number of women in his cabinet. The new commander-in-chief is advancing the female cause. This is what breaking the glass ceiling looks like, Senator Amy Klobuchar enthused on Inauguration Day. She was so excited, but it was short-lived. Mere hours after stressing the need for unity, in quotations, U-N-I-T-Y, that was Queen Latifah's hit song back in the early 90s. Well, maybe mid-90s, but anyway, don't worry about that. President Biden sparked a new civil war. A new civil war. So war is upon us. Interesting. With an executive order letting transgender women compete in women's sports. Well, I think this should have been worded, President Biden sparked a new civil war against heterosexual women. It should have been that. I mean, who's the new civil war against? Well, it's self-explanatory, I guess. Anyway, hours after Harris became the first female vice president, Biden signed an executive order that discriminates against her entire sex. Well, she had to support this, I would think. Anyway, let's move on. The directive title, Preventing and Combating Discrimination on the Basis of Gender Identity or Sexual Orientation, spells disaster for women's shelters, sports, and health care in the name of transgender equality. And we'll get back to that word in a little bit. For instance, institutions that receive Title IX funding must allow biological males who identify as female to compete in women's athletics. Children should be able to learn without worrying about whether they will be denied access to school sports, the order states. Now that was your 46th president speaking, Joe Biden. That was in quotations. Let me read that again in quotations. Children should be able to learn without worrying about whether they will be denied access to school sports, the order states. He wrote it in there. So anyway, of course, by asserting that sex in the Title IX includes gender identity, so they're going to put that in the Title IX now. It's going to include gender identity. So you cannot discriminate against that. The order not only denies reality. Now, listen. Y'all listen up real good. The order not only denies reality and discriminates against biological women, it also effectively reverses Title IX, instituted to give female athletes a level playing field through female-only teams. Oh well. Wow. But this is where it gets really, really, really interesting. Biden avoids the inconvenient topic, how the bone density, muscle mass, and lung capacity of female identifying biological males give them an unfair advantage over biological females, allowing them to unjustly claim titles, trophies, and scholarships. Well, let me go back and rephrase that, what I said earlier. The Civil War, I guess, should be against biological females, instead of using the term heterosexual, but it should be against biological females. So that's the Civil War is waged on, I would say. So the notion is patently ridiculous and may result in girls losing out on prestigious sports victories and maybe scholarships that go with them. It also risks greater injuries to women A better solution, perhaps, might be to give trans athletes a league of their own. Now, that's not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea. I always say, if you're going to complain about a problem and you don't have a solution to the problem you're complaining about, then stop complaining about the problem. But this is a viable solution. They're probably not going to go for this. But hey, a league of their own. I believe that was a movie. Gina Davis, them back in the day. Okay. Anyway, a few years ago in Connecticut, male high school track and field athletes Terry Miller and Andrea Yearwood began competing and consistently winning as women. In 2020, 3 female track athletes filed suit against the conference policy permitting this. So, I think I talked about this in my last video. Yes. Now, this is a quote. This is a quote from one of the parents, I do believe. My daughter would have qualified for the New England Regionals in the 55-meter dash in spring 2019. One plaintiff's mother wrote. Well, she wrote this, okay. But instead, the top 2 sports went to biological boys who identify as girls. Yeah, really, you think? Yeah. Yes, I saw this. Matter of fact, I saw this on a YouTube channel. I did see this. That was nightmarish. Well, quite embarrassing, I would say. The biological females, they looked like they were running backwards. They were going backwards. It looked like that way. It looked like they were going backwards when those young men who identified as girls was competing against them. It was not a pretty sight. As I stated in my last video, records will be broken. And I can't wait to see what the Olympics are going to look like. Anyway, let's move on. A recent study suggests that male to female trans athletes retain physical advantages over their female peers, even after a year of testosterone suppression. Interesting. Well, we're just going to keep it moving here. Fairness aside, this is dangerous. Recall that thanks to his male strength, trans MMA fighter Fallon Fox cracked a female's opponent's skull in 2014. I didn't see that, but matter of fact, I wouldn't want to see that. I hope the female opponent is okay. Well, it's 2014. I would just hope. Why does he get in the ring? If this person is a trans biological, well, what? I don't know. I would not. I don't know what were you trying to prove. Anyway, meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Education will now switch sides in 2 court battles, one in Connecticut and another in Idaho, over whether transgender athletes are treated by their biological sex or by how they identify. Surely Title IX, the landmark federal law that guarantees equal opportunity for women and girls in education and sports, wasn't drafted with the intent of allowing biological women to go up against female identifying men. Of course it wasn't, but Biden's going to change that. That's what it seems like. This is going to be new law. I mean, it's heading that way. A new glass ceiling was just placed over girls. Wall Street Journal contributor Abigail Shrier tweeted, "Clearly Biden wants to signal his left-wing bona fides early. But if such foolish moves foreshadow what's to come, forget about unity." Wow. To quote the president, "We must reject a culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured," Biden asserted Wednesday. Alas, by ignoring the damage trans dogma does to women. What? Okay, we're just reading here. The Bostock executive order does precisely that, unquote. Okay. Well, the question is, should female athletes speak out? I think they're already doing that. Or even boycott. I think they're going to do that. The other question is, will this extend beyond women's sports? Who knows? But we will see just how far down the rabbit hole this goes. Well, I guess the women of Wild Wild World of Sports are just going to have to run faster and jump a little higher. But I guess they put the true meaning of life isn't fair, and they gambled with equality on a dare. All right, good people, sad to say, but that's it for today. And remember, if you had or have a bad day, like those biological females, we can just tell them it's going to be okay. This is your guy, your communicator, your educator, Mr. Information and Free Thinker. Until next time, like, share, and subscribe. And I am out.